Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Coffee Fest, happening in LA this week between the 25th and the 27th of August. I will be there this weekend, most likely on the Sunday, and it's looking like I might be there on Saturday as well. But if you're looking at getting tickets, check out the show notes, and we have a 50% discount code in there that will get you into Coffee Fest for $30 if you purchase the tickets online, and just a little bit more than that if you turn up on the day and purchase from there. We're going to be having some sort of a meet and greet and whatnot, so come say hi, and I'd love to meet you. Today on the Daily Coffee Pro, carrying on from the last two episodes of the Daily Coffee Pro about coffee consulting. So who should be a coffee consultant and who should hire a coffee consultant? A lot of people are asking, how much do I charge as a coffee consultant? So this is a really interesting question. And the answer is there is no standard rate. When I typically answer this question, I get people to think about it this way. If you're a decent human, like if you're not somebody who's delusional and thinks they're worth far more than they're actually worth, and there are a lot of people out there who think they should be earning $400 an hour after working in an espresso bar for 12 months, that's absolutely not the case. But what I'm about to say will help you realize how that's not the case. So for people who are reasonable, people who have been doing this for a long time and who understand what they've got to offer, if you want to figure out your rate, what I would recommend is pick an extremely high number, pick an extremely low number, and kind of sit in what that feels like. So it's ridiculous to charge people $1,000 an hour. You know that feels like it's way too much for you if you are starting out as a consultant. And you know $20 an hour is probably really low for you to start out as a consultant. Then what you want to do is you want to come in closer and closer, and you'll start to realize what rate feels right for you. So if for you, $50 an hour is feeling like the right amount, or 100 or 200 or 300 or 400 or whatever it is feeling right for you, the thing that will tell you whether you are on the money is when you ask a client that you know that you're well connected with, like you are at the level that you're able to work for that client, and that client isn't delusional either. Like they're not coming at this thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to find a coffee consultant that's going to cost me $20 an hour. And there are clients out there are cafe owners and roastery owners and everything in between that think that you should be charging like $30 an hour for consulting. Now, look, if you're going in there as a barista trainer, so you're going to teach people how to make coffee, I would say that that's a fair rate. If you're just going in there as somebody that is a barista that has been hired by another local cafe when you're looking for work, and you're going to go in there and you're going to train other baristas. And, let me qualify that. What I mean is if you are in a bit of a sleepy town, or you've headed to a sleepy town, specialty coffee is just starting to boom, not even specialty, everything coffee. And somebody says, hey, listen, I know you've just arrived in town. Have you ever consulted before? You're like, no, I've only been in coffee 3 years as a barista. And they say, hey, I was wondering if you could come and teach my baristas how to make coffee. $30 an hour in the US is probably fair, in my opinion, for something like that. It's double what you would earn here in California if you were just doing a shift. Well, it will be as of next year when it becomes the minimum wage. And the reason I use that as an example is because a vast majority of people who are wanting to start off as coffee consultants have been in the industry for a couple of years and are wondering, like, if I want to go and teach other people how to make coffee, how much can I charge? Well, that's where I'd start, between $30 and $50 an hour. Now, when things start to get a little more serious, which is what I keep getting contacted about at the moment, which is people who are trying to consult to cafe owners or future cafe owners. Again, I would say to you, if you have not opened a cafe before and don't have extensive experience in business or opening cafes for someone you've worked for a decade, I would caution you from taking on a client like that. You are playing with fire, in my opinion. And I don't mind copying backlash over saying that. I've seen far too many clients end up throwing money after goodwill because they believed that they were hiring the right person because the consultant said to them, yeah, I know everything that I need to know about doing this. Well, and they don't. They've been the head barista or they've been a cafe manager and they're unaware of how much extra work is required and how much extra information is required to know to help somebody open a cafe. And it really is extensive. So please stay away from that. If you've never done it before and you want to be a coffee consultant in that space, then I would suggest going and either working for somebody who's going to be opening up a number of cafes, or find someone who's opening up a cafe and shadow them. Ask them if you can help them in any way that they're doing in exchange for knowing all the other things that they have to learn in opening a business. You should also have an extensive network, and your network has financial value. So when you're thinking about your rate and what you're going to charge, you should be considering, well, how much access does this client need to my network, and how big is my network? Is it very local, like the suburb that I work in? Is it in the state, the country? Is it global? Do I have access to people so that I can call them up and say, I have a client who needs access to XYZ. Can you help me figure it out? Like, these are the kinds of things you should be considering when you're looking at your rate. Now, once you do have your rate, the way you go about organizing a consult or moving ahead with a consult, you start with a proposal, and that should be in writing. I do all my proposals through Canva. If you're looking for a platform that you can put a proposal together for, it's got a cover page, and it's a one sheet typically. And the reason I do my proposals as one sheets now is because I do a very general kind of, this is what I cost per day or per hour, and this is what you'll get for that based on what the general discussion that we've had. And if that rate looks good to them, then I'll go further with a deeper proposal that outlines everything that's going to happen. And off the first general proposal, comes back a confirmation of they're willing to move forward. Just before I move on from that one sheet also includes the terms of payment, if expenses are being covered, where the consult will take place. It covers travel time and all the extras that you need to cover. How payment will be made in cash? Will it be made by a credit card, transfer? What date it needs to be made? Is payment happening before the consultation happens, or 50% upfront, 50% once it's done? And what happens after that? So once the consult's finished, what's the follow-on that goes on from that? So that should be in very general terms, like bang, 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 on a one sheet, that you send to the client. The client says that all looks great. You receive a confirmation back. Now, for me personally, I don't book a consult until confirmation and 50% of payment is received up front. And then I take the rest of the payment when I arrive at the job. So, or at the end of the day that the job is being done. And that's once you've secured and confirmed all that payment and let people know that the deposit is non-refundable. But if you have to move things around for any particular period of time, you specify how much notice you need to be given, etc., etc. Particularly, this becomes really difficult when you're going to consults for different countries. When you have established all of that, so, they'll pay for your travel, they'll pay for hotels, they'll pay for this, they'll pay for that. When you move forward with that, you need to determine things like, well, okay, who's booking all of this stuff? And what are the details? What will you provide? Will you provide paper documentation and handouts? How many people will be involved in the consult? And this is really important with regards to your rate as well, because you'll do a one-on-one consult, and then you'll be scheduled to do a one-on-one consult, and all of a sudden 5 people appear in the room. Well, that's not fair, because then all of those 5 people are going to be asking you questions as well, and you turned up prepared to consult to one particular person. And you might think like, well, we're paying for your time. Excuse me. Yes, you're paying for my time on the day, as well as all of the time I'm going to take to prepare to give you the best quality information I can find based on the research I've done for this specific consult, based on what you've told me you're going to do. And I'm there to answer questions for you. I'm not there to hold a seminar or a workshop. So be aware of what you're being asked to do and what the requirements from your end are going to be. I hope that that's helped. This was a really hot topic when we ran the question on Instagram. People kept wanting to know how much to charge. I hope that has given you some guidance. And if you have more questions, hit us up on Instagram at imapitforward. One other thing here, an important part of being able to do this is knowing how to be assertive. And so if you're someone who's looking to become a consultant as a part of your career map, I would recommend getting assertiveness training. If you're not going to be in Sydney for the assertiveness training that we're going to be doing for the coffee industry there, it will be available online within hopefully a week of that course finishing. It's a full day workshop. The reason I say this is because a lot of people who have been asking me what they should be charging are also people who I know to be quite high on the empathy scale and not so direct in the way that they communicate. So I would suggest some assertiveness training to help you know where your boundaries are and that you feel confident in what you're saying to people and that it's fair. And it will really help you a lot when it comes to knowing what you're worth and knowing what to charge people. I hope to see you all at Coffee Fest this week. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.